Welcome back to another edition of the Night Report podcast. Joining me once again is Richie Schneider. Richie, we've been gone for about a month now, I want to say. There's been a few things that have happened in the interim, but it's kind of a slow period. So we're just going to catch you guys up on all the recent happenings, kind of give you some updates on some fairly new developments. But first, let's start off with the spring game. So spring game was a couple weeks ago. We finally got to see what this offense looks like with a new offensive line, a little bit more Gavin. Overall, what did you think the team showed in the spring game?
Honestly, I thought there were some ups, there were some downs. You saw a little bit of Evan Simon that was interesting. He made a couple deep balls, a couple deep throws. Obviously, he had the one interception, which wasn't great. Numbers wise, if you just looking based off the stats alone, Gavin and Noah had almost identical stats. You have to obviously combine Noah's stats between the Scarlet and the white team because it went back and forth. But they're like eerily identical. I think one had 118 passing yards with 19 attempts. One had 119 passing yards with 19 attempts. And it was like, it was, I guess it was nothing special. It's a spring game. They can't really, there's no contact. Supposed to be a little bit flashy. I thought it would be flashier than what it was. But end of the day, I mean, spring ball's over and now we're looking forward to training camp. It's going to be an interesting year. Put it lightly.
Yeah, no, I didn't end up being able to make it to the game. I was sick that week, but they started off firing on all cylinders offensive wise. Like both the Scarlet and the white teams marched down the field their first drive, scored a touchdown, and then there was basically no offense the rest of the game.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was a scripted thing or if the teams just kind of figured each other out at that point. But that was kind of concerning. I'm hoping to see more of the first quarter offense than the following 3-quarter offenses in the beginning of the season. I also thought there was a really nice turnout at this. I didn't expect there to be almost 15,000 people there. Yeah. I guess kudos to the BTN kind of tangentially for moving the game to Friday. And I imagine that boosted the attendance a little bit. Also, it was like, 75 degrees and a perfect day. But
yeah. I mean, there was ups and downs. Like I said, it's so hard to tell with the spring game too, because look at the last year's spring game. The tight ends dominated. We didn't see them for the entire season.
Yep.
Then when you go against your own units, it's kind of hard. It's like, wow, is the defense really that bad, or is the offense that good, or vice versa? And it's like you don't really know. You can't tell. You really can't tell much until you get into like game mode, like game one. That's when you kind of are able to figure things out and see who's good, who's not, who's struggling, who's thriving. But overall, a typical spring game. So I don't think it was anything different than most years. Quarterback battle still undetermined. Running back battle is going to be intriguing going into camp. A lot of open spots still. Like I don't think anything's been solidified by any means.
I do think the top 2 receivers were very apparent in this spring game. Yeah, Sean Ryan and Taj Harris looked so much better than any duo we've had in a long time. That's saying a lot. Yeah. I also thought the QB accuracy was still a huge problem. There was a lot of erratic throws. Even if a lot of them weren't picked off, there was just throws where you're wondering what the hell they're even looking at and who they're throwing it to. And I don't know. I mean, sometimes that could be on the receivers or the tight end, whoever they're throwing it to, but
yeah,
that was concerning.
Yeah. Like I said, the one Evan Simon ball, I think the interception one was thrown into like double coverage, overthrown. And it's just like, what are we doing here? Like, but then you'll see them in the beginning of the game and it's like, all right. And then a couple nice passes here and there. And as weird as this sounds, I've said it on the board a couple times. Alex said it. I've said it. I think others have said it. Evan Simon might have been the best quarterback this spring. In multiple practices we've seen Evan Simon step up before anyone else. Is that going to be the difference maker? It's spring ball, so it's so hard to tell. But I think this is a pretty open competition. The only reason I do say that Vedral is likely the starter is just because he's the veteran. He's the guy they trust. He's going to do everything they ask him to do. But at the end of the day, I mean, if Simon or Gavin can grab this by the reins, then I think it's their job. It's going to be interesting to see who starts game one against Boston College.
For sure. And kind of speaking about this earlier, it was a nice day, so it was a good turnout. What was the turnout recruiting-wise for the event? Were there a lot of high-level targets at the spring game?
Yeah, dude. It's been, what, a month now? I got to look this back up to see who was there. But there was a good amount of people there. I know Isaiah Neal, who actually just scheduled an official visit to Rutgers, is there. I gotta pull this up. I can't find this at all. What date was it? The 22nd, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Isaiah Neal, Josiah Peterson, no surprise there. Devin Houston, who just dropped the top 4, including Rutgers, or top 5, I forget what it was. He was there. He's a 4-star defensive tackle, but at the end of the day, it sounds like he's gonna go with Notre Dame. Jordan Montgomery is a New Jersey kid who's highly rated that was there. John Stone, Rutgers commit. Logan Blake, the tight end I actually just saw the other day at the Hun School Elite Showcase College thing, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah,
everyone
I wanted to get into that if you don't mind.
Yeah, he looked really good. He was on campus for the spring game. He was on campus before that for another spring visit. He's extremely high on Rutgers. I know Rutgers is obviously the higher of the 2 offers between them and UConn. So obviously most people will think right away, like, hey, of course he's going to like Rutgers. But no, he loves New Jersey. He loves the idea of Rutgers. He's going to visit Duke this upcoming weekend or next weekend, one of the 2. I got to double check on that. But after that, he's going to probably make a decision early summer. So I think Rutgers is in the driver's seat there. Other guys that have visited, other names, Yasid Haynes, another Rutgers commit who actually just got a Minnesota offer. And it doesn't sound like he's going to visit there, but it's always something to monitor because, PJ Fleck and crew are pretty damn good recruiters. So they're going to push for him pretty hard. Ted Gregory, I'm not really sure how to say it exactly.
Yeah.
The Hudson Catholic defensive end. They're doing very good there. He's another official visitor that will come first week in June, second week in June, one of those 2 weeks. Overall recruiting's right now. There's some struggles. There's no lie about that, but there are some guys that I think are going to start locking it in. So starting probably June, probably after these official visits. Right now there's 7 people expected to be on campus, including the 2 I just said in Neal and Gregory. Brandon Wisloski, a running back out of Pennsylvania. I could see him locking it down with Rutgers. Ted Gregory.
It sounded like when he visited originally and got his offer, it sounded like you guys were alluding to maybe a commitment being imminent there. Is that still kind of how you feel?
Yeah, I actually thought he would have been committed by now, to be honest. We don't have a future cast in for him yet, but there's a very good chance we're putting one in within the next week or 2. Just looking at the up to 8 official visitors now. I think the most likely would probably be Ted Gregory, Dominic Rivera, who I didn't talk about yet, an offensive lineman at Ohio. I think he's 6'8", 320, massive dude. It's obvious they want to get bigger in the trenches. So I think those 2 right there for that first weekend or the June 10th weekend. And then the second weekend for June 21st that they're having visitors. I'd probably say Wisloski is the most likely out of those 4. Kenny Johnson, Pennsylvania guy, is leaning toward. I actually have a future cast in for him for Penn State. I got to change that actually because it sounds like he's going to lean towards West Virginia instead. But again, official visits can change a lot of stuff. Antonio Kamen, a Florida guy. He's intriguing because he has a ton of offers. He has a Rutgers official. He has a Pittsburgh official, an Iowa State and Kansas. It sounds like Iowa State's making the biggest push there. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. And then who's the last one? I just saw it. Oh, Isaiah Neal, who I actually think they have a decent shot with. It's a highly rated 3-star kid out of St. Francis Academy, which is like arguably one of the top programs in the Northeast.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the top 2 or 3 in Maryland, at least.
Yeah. So I mean, they're doing very good there. He has a Rutgers official, a Pittsburgh official, and an NC State official. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. I know NC State always sneakily gets up into the Northeast once in a while and snags a recruit here and there. But Donovan Leary, for example, or Devin Leary, Donovan, one of the 2, I forget.
I think he's the older brother, so I think that was Donovan.
Yeah, Donovan. I don't know, but you get what I'm saying.
No, that was Devin. You're right. It was Devin.
Yeah, overall, I mean, recruiting, it's slow right now because there's only 3 kids. They lost a kid in Chris Johnson who's picking up offers left and right. He got Oklahoma yesterday or 2 days ago, whatever it was. He got Tennessee. Obviously, Georgia offered as a DB. So I don't expect him to come back. I mean, recruiting's right now. I'm not going to say it's great. I'm not going to say it's the worst in the world because we've seen Ash recruit, and that was probably the bottom level, I would say. That's the basement dweller. But I don't think it's great. I think they need to do some stuff. It is tough when you have a whole new staff pretty much too. Those relationships that these guys have built over the past 2 years, they're all gone. So now you have 4 new defensive coaches, new wide receivers coach. You flip. I know it sounds cliche because not even cliche. It just sounds stupid to say because Hoffman and Ulrich were still on staff, but now they're recruiting 2 totally different positions. So now it's like it's a little different. You're gonna have to build more relationships with those offensive linemen and running back groups. But yeah, I think you'll see a wave of commits in June. I think they'll probably get near that 10 mark in June, and then I don't know if they'll go anywhere past like the 15 mark. I think the transfer portal's here to stay, and that's going to ruin high school recruiting in general, or it's just going to flip flop completely, and we're just going to be like, all right, they got like 5 high school kids this year, great. They got 25 transfers this year, so I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, it could just be like the high school kids go to lower and lower level programs and they become like feeders. So
Yeah.
it's not that there's like they got to go somewhere. Like the only way you could get a transfer kid is if he was a high school kid at some point. So even if it means more 1AA kids when they should be Power 5 kids, yeah, it's just unfortunate for these kids who have put in so much time, so much work, and they're not going to get the opportunities that somebody even 5 years ago would have had.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. You went from the 25 limit, pushing that 25 limit, to now they're like, yeah, we don't need that anymore. You guys can take as many transfers as you want. Go ahead, have fun. Like,
yep. I want to talk about that Hun showcase because they have some of like the biggest high school kids I can remember collectively ever seeing. Yeah. Like it seems like everybody that you listed in that showcase was like 6'5" or taller, outside of like the linebackers and wide receivers.
Yeah,
at least along the lines.
Pretty much. Zach Amland, and there was well, first off, I want to say I just walked up. There's like 35, 40 coaches there, and there's like about 20 something Power 5s. And
any head coaches you saw?
Oh yeah, I could. It was funny because like I walk up and like someone's like, "Hey, Rich," I'm like, "Who the hell is this group?" I walk over. It's AJ Blazik, Adam Shire, Nunzio Campanelli, and someone else. I forget who it was. It was like 4 Ash guys, and they were all at different schools now, and it was just it was cool to see. It was a little different, but no, they're still very friendly dudes. They're all great people. They all still connect, I guess. They're all still friends at the end of the day, whatever happened at Rutgers or not. Obviously, some moved on to better jobs. You see Shire drop down to Temple. You see Blazik went up to Vanderbilt, and it's just absolutely insane how that happened. But yeah, no, I mean, tons of coaches. Oklahoma came up to watch Logan Howland. They're very high on him. The fact that if you see Oklahoma and New Jersey, that's telling you something. Like, kid's pretty good. West Virginia, I had the list. Kentucky came up. I think there was a Florida State. A ton of college coaches. Mostly the focus was on Logan Howland. I was shocked when I saw him in person. Wow. I saw him 2 years ago as a tight end at like one of the PSR or Zone 6 camps, and he's like, it's a tight end. He's kind of slow for a tight end. Whatever, just it is what it is. You don't brush it off. Like, I don't think he's going to be anything special. It's crazy to say, and I hate to say this, Rutgers could have had him last year as a PWO easily.
Really?
Yep. And instead,
where's he out of high school?
Westfield High School.
Okay.
So yeah, they showed some interest in him. They didn't really push for the PWO as much. They probably could have landed him if they did, which sucks to say now because the guy went to Hun, transferred to offensive tackle, and now he's got 20 something offers or something like that.
Yeah.
He looked absolutely dominant. I thought Amland was the anchor of that offensive line. It is by far Howland. Howland looked 10 times like, and this is no knock on Amland. Amland's a very good player. I just think Howland's that good. I think Howland dominates as an offensive lineman. He bends well. He's got the athleticism that he played basketball, tight end. He just looked really, really good. He's powerful. He's big, stocky legs, bulky dude. He bulked up quite a bit. I think he's told me he was up to 275, 280 range now. If you can get him to that 300-pound range, I think he could be a very dominant offensive tackle. And I think that's what teams are seeing now. And that's why Oklahoma, Penn State, Miami, all these teams are going to host him for official visits. Hell, Iowa's going after him. It tells you all you need to know about an offensive lineman. So, yeah, he dominated the whole thing. I thought he was the most impressive. Zach Amwin looked pretty good too. I know both Rutgers coaches, Ulrich and Nuns, that were there. We're keeping a close eye on those two. And then in terms of the offense, they kind of ran just a couple one-on-one drills. And then Logan Blake actually had the catch of the day. He looked like the best receiver out there in general. It's not saying a whole lot because they don't have a ton of receivers, but he did look pretty good as a tight end, or just I guess as a receiving tight end person. Yeah, he looked good. Marco Lanes looked up and down. He's the Iowa commit that Rutgers didn't offer, and everyone on the board claims, oh, we should offer him. Like, yeah. He wanted to play in a pro style from day one. He wanted to play under center. He had zero interest in Rutgers whatsoever, so there's no point in wasting that offer. Trying to think who else. There's someone else. So Zach Amlin, I talked about a little bit before. He looked
Kamari Archie or whatever.
Kamari Archie is going to be I think should be like a top 25 kid in the country. He's just freaky. Like he tried playing offense, or well, first he ran with the D-line unit, which I think he could be an edge rusher, just bulk on a little bit. I don't know what his exact weight is, but he's chiseled, he's built, he's just powerful, and he just looks mean in trenches. And that's like my big thing with linemen. He just he hits that bag and it's like, holy shit, like, this kid's a 2025, and it's like, I know he's a reclass technically, so you can all yell at me, oh, he's 24. No, he's 2025 now. He's insanely good. Now, he looked great in the trenches. He went and tried to run some routes, and it's just like, oh Jesus, like stop. Like, you don't have the hands, you don't have the route running, but he's quick as shit. And it's just like, oh, the dude is phenomenal in my opinion. I know I want to say they're probably going to underrate him from the get, but I do think that all the services, including ours, is just going to underrate him. And I think that he should be like a top 25 to top 30 kid. He's phenomenal. He's really good. Who's the other guy? Owen Waffle I talked to today or the other day. Very high on Rutgers. Wants to still take some visits. He's 2024 kid. It's a lot of time there. He's ranked in the top 200. I don't think he's a top 250 kid. I think he's a little lower than that. I think he's a mid to high 3-star. I think we have him as like a 4-star, like solidified 4-star. He's okay. He's up and down. I think he's young still, so he can develop a little more. I'm intrigued to see how he develops and how he kind of shapes his body. Who else? Dante Barone was he was okay. I know we have him as a 3-star defensive end. If you couldn't get noticed by now, they're all trench guys at the Hunt School, and then they're just here's an Iowa quarterback, have fun. Like, if they ever got like a 3-4-star receiver, that whole offense would be unstoppable. But it already is kind of. So other than that, I think that's basically everybody for the most part, all the big names at least.
Yeah, you ran through a lot of names there. We'll leave some meat on the bone for the listener questions at the end with some recruiting stuff. So next, this was an announcement that got made since our last podcast. We've all kind of been waiting to hear the resolution on the CVIV status at Rutgers. She announced she's retiring effective, I believe, September 1st. And there was an $800,000 plus agreement to buy her out of the contract. Did this one just come out of left field, or has the AD been and the athletic department in general been working on this for a while?
I mean, you kind of know this too, just based on the fact that our conversation with Hobbs, there had to be some kind of resolution. And it seemed like if you're going to miss a year, you kind of pissed off a lot of people. It's more like, you're probably not coming back. We're going to make something work. Now, mind you, she took all those sick days. I still think she got paid technically to take those sick days. So you're getting that mill for year one. And then here's another $800K to just go. Just leave us alone. Like, here's $860K. And it's like,
I wonder if that nullifies her agreement to be like an administrator too.
I would think so. I didn't read in the details of it. I requested it, so I'm kind of waiting for it. But I'm intrigued to see what it says. I can't imagine they're going to even contemplate bringing her on as an administrator. I know she's a legend, blah blah blah, but the shit she pulled last year is like that was ridiculous. You can't be doing that after you coached throughout the whole pandemic. Then you're going to be like, hey, pandemic's over. No. Like,
yeah.
I'm sorry. I know people are going to be pissed at me for that one, but
no, it was. I don't think it was handled well on her end for sure.
No, it was definitely interesting the way it went down, but what are you going to do? I mean, it is what it is. And now we're looking for a new women's basketball coach.
So yeah, let's talk about that. Are there any names right now that you're hearing as favorites for the job, or anybody we've talked to or know that we've contacted?
I know that Hobbs did reach out to Chris Daly, the UConn associate head coach, Rutgers alum. Her last job before UConn was Rutgers. She was a Rutgers assistant coach. Then she went on to UConn
like
in
the 80s, though, right?
Yeah. That was 83 to 85. Then she joined UConn in 85 and hasn't left UConn since. Now, the resume, like it's insanely good. Like obviously, it's UConn basketball, women's basketball. Like what is it? Like 25 conference titles, 11 national titles, 24 conference tournament championships. Like the resume is through the roof. It's UConn basketball. I mean, women's basketball over there is just, that might be their best program.
Yep.
Which is crazy, but yeah, so I mean, they reached out to her, but it doesn't sound like she's too interested. Nor do I know if she would be a good fit. Obviously, you'd have to build a pretty good recruiting staff around her, but I think that's what they kind of did for CVIV over the past 12, 15 years, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You just get a good coach. I think what you need is an X's and O's coach. Now, who is that? I don't really know. I know that everyone keeps mentioning the Princeton head coach, Berube, however you pronounce it. I heard she's going to cost a shit ton of money. Like, it's just not going to happen. It doesn't sound like. I don't think they want to touch anywhere near where that $1 million mark that they had for CVIV. The programs, it's no secret. The program doesn't have a ton of season ticket holders. It's been in the red for quite some time. And it's almost just funneling money at this point. So you got to kind of make this work. Like, I think it's just going to be another up and coming hire. It's going to be like Steve Pike out of Stony Brook, or Steve Owens out of Bryant, or a Jim McElderry out of Fordham. I think you should probably look more into those local programs like the Ionas and the Stony Brooks and the Rhode Islands and et cetera, all these smaller programs around the Northeast, and someone that has connections to Jersey. And I think that's going to be the way they go. Now, that being said, I did mention in the war room yesterday or today, I guess, depends when we post this, whatever.
Yep.
Rutgers prep head coach, Mary Coyle Klinger, is a Rutgers alum, Rutgers Hall of Famer, third in assist all time or something like that. Her and her sister were the twins that played under Theresa Grants back in the 80s. She has an interesting resume, and she's very interested in the Rutgers job. So now she has 600 plus wins at Rutgers Prep. She's coached multiple big name recruits. She has a Rutgers signee / commit. I don't know if the girl signed or not. I'm not 100% sure. She also has a number 14 kid or number 12 kid in the 2024 class per ESPN. She's coached Team USA's under 17 team, head coach in the McDonald's All-American game, Jordan Brand Classic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Helps run the GEYBL, or whatever the girls Nike EYBL thing is.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, it's interesting name. The issue is she doesn't have any college assistant coaching history or coaching history in general. Now, everyone on the boards, I posted that. Everyone on the boards right away is like, hell no, she doesn't know how to recruit. She doesn't know how to recruit. She's at a prep school. You don't think she knows how to fucking recruit? You think the number 12 kid just goes to randomly is like, hey, I'm going to go to Rutgers Prep. And like, no, I don't even, they have a basketball program. Like, no, like she recruited her there. She recruited all the other ones there.
Yep.
Like, let's not play dumb. And then on top of it, her sister, the twin sister we were talking about before, who's also in the Rutgers Hall of Fame, I believe. She coached multiple years in the at college. She started out at Pitt, went to a bunch of other different colleges. She was the head coach of St. Peter's, everyone's favorite college over the past 6 months, and she also was the head coach of the New York Liberty. So I mean, if you bring her on staff, she has experience. She knows what she's doing. She ran a college program. Hell, go after her.
Yep.
So I mean, she kind of sucked at St. Peter's. That's the only downside, but that's why it's like, hey, go for the one that has wins and try that, and add the other as assistant, and add 2 more assistants that are shark recruiters, such as I don't even know who to compare them to, but if I had to compare Klinger to anybody, I know I said this off camera with you, I'd probably say she's a Kevin Boyle kind of type coach, and Kevin Boyle was once a Rutgers men's basketball candidate. it's not like it's crazy to hire a high school coach. You said it before, Scott Goodale. Yeah, the guy's pretty damn good, if you ask me.
Yeah, he's one of the best coaches Rutgers has ever had, in my opinion. And I think, I don't know this to be true. I don't know every hire Pat Hobbs has made, but he seems to lean towards candidates who have had head coaching experience before they've arrived at Rutgers. So whether that be like a lower level school like Steve Owens coached at Bryant, and he probably had over 20 years of head coaching experience before he got hired. Steve Peichel, same thing. He had probably close to 20 years of head coaching experience before he was hired at Rutgers. If you look at the Carla Berble or whatever, the head coach of Princeton, she was a D3 head coach for almost 20 years at Tufts, just like bringing them to the D3 Final Fours year after year. And she got hired at Princeton, and she's carried over that success. I think the lower level in terms of like the amount of revenue a program or a sport generates, the easier it is to take those risky hires, quote unquote, because there's not the same level of pressure as you would for like a football coach or a men's basketball coach. Yeah. So I think thinking outside the box for like these middle level programs, and women's basketball at Rutgers is a middle level program. Like even when we were at our peak, we weren't like making money. We might've broken even, but we weren't making money. It's a sport that gets on TV occasionally, but it's not one of the flagship programs at a school unless you're like dominating like UConn.
Yeah. And
so I think you could think outside the box, whether it be like a D2 head coach or like a high school head coach. I don't think that's crazy, especially if your top candidates are just shooting you down left and right.
It's not insane. I think the Klinger makes sense. Like it's not like it's crazy because she's been the head basketball coach at Rutgers Prep since '84. Like she finished college and just was like, "Hey, I'm going to go right into coaching." They're like, "Oh, you're a Rutgers Hall of Famer. Here's the job." Hasn't left. She's the director of athletics over there now. Like she's got a pretty decent high school resume. I don't know. It's interesting. And like you mentioned, like Rutgers women's basketball is nowhere near like. It's not a dig. It's just truth. It's not a top 3 program. I saw someone mention that and be like, it's football, men's basketball, women's basketball. I was like, no, like it's probably football, basketball, lacrosse might even draw more than wrestling, right?
In terms of crowds?
I guess in terms of like in general revenue, it's probably wrestling or lacrosse.
I'd say wrestling probably makes more because wrestling has like over 3,000 or around 3,000 season ticket holders.
Yeah. And then lacrosse is right there, though. I mean, they have a lot of people too. Yeah. And then baseball is on the come up. If baseball can figure it out, who knows? Then that thing could just take off real quickly.
Yeah, for sure.
There's no baseball in Jersey. Like,
yeah. Well, there's some, but there's not like a dominant program.
Yeah, I mean, Trenton's now. What do you call it? Independent. There's no. I guess Central Jersey you can consider Somerset.
Somerset Patriots. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pain in the neck. But whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I guess we'll just have to stay tuned on this one. It's not really a ton that's come out regarding the coaching search, but I'm sure we'll start hearing names. And I can't imagine they'll let this kind of be vacant for much longer because this is a very important time of the year for both recruiting and for. I don't even know how many players they have available to the team next year. Like I know that they've taken some transfers, but I don't know. It's a very awkward time.
They're still offering people. It's like, yeah. What is going on? Like, I guess you'd work until you're done, but it's like still awkward. Like, what if someone wants to commit? No.
Yeah, it's not a fun position to be in.
I don't know.
But anyway, we had some huge Rutgers related news this week. Actually, yesterday, this news came out. The Knights of the Raritan, the NIL collective, was officially launched. And this is we're going to open a wider NIL discussion in a lot of the questions you guys asked. But how big of an announcement and a move for Rutgers athletics is this NIL collective?
I mean, it's big because you got to spend money. Like you got to pay players now. Like this is just how it works. Now I'm intrigued to see how this whole thing is going to operate. Just looking based on it, I know obviously you could do a monthly plan, and all that monthly plan money gets pooled into one, and then the executive board gets to determine where that money's going to go, whether that be a football player, a baseball player, a basketball player, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I do want to stop you right there because you can specify where you'd like your money to go, or you can have it go to the executive team and they choose where it goes.
Yeah. So, but that's where I'm kind of curious. Like, if you select men's basketball, you do like, what is it, the $500 a month?
Mm-hmm.
Is it like, do they? I guess they just pick what player he goes to and what it's going to go for.
Yep.
It's interesting. Personally, I hate NIL. I think it's stupid, but you got to live. It's what's going on now. Like, you have to adapt. Like, it's part of the thing. Yep. Part of college football, college athletics in general. So now I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work in terms of, like, you see other schools like USC's over here paying Jordan Addison $3 million.
Yeah, so I want to kind of get into a larger NIL discussion because I feel like a lot of people don't really understand it at the moment. So USC is making a lot of headlines for the amount of transfers they're bringing in, the supposed NIL deals that they're actually making, but they don't have an NIL collective. So that's kind of where I wanted to direct this conversation, because there's plenty of guys at Rutgers, schools all around the country, who have gotten NIL deals that are completely outside NIL collectives. NIL collectives are like groups that are trying to do everything above board and make sure everything is kind of democratized in a way where, like, they're making sure all these different programs are getting some visibility. But I mean, these guys, like this guys left and right at Rutgers who are doing these NIL deals, either they've found them on their own or because they've hired an agency to represent them and get them deals. So kind of just talk a little bit more about just how players can get NIL deals and how it's just like all over the place.
It's insane. Like, Cliff just signed with some fucking random in industry or agency or whatever the hell it is. I've never heard of it before. It's like IBFBZ or some shit. And it's like, yeah, that guy's going to represent him, and that's how he's going to get all his NIL deals. That guy's going to reach out to companies, and it's like, all right, I guess you basically have an agent. So I don't know. The whole thing's insane. I know Gio signed with Malka Sports in the past. He's done some stuff with them. Those what are they called? Those honey stinger things. They're like pre-workout type thing. I actually had one yesterday before I ran around for men's basketball. I was like, hey, look, I'm Gio Baker. But no, they're not bad. They're actually pretty good. So highly recommend it if you guys are interested in that. But other than that, like, I know Paul Mulcahy's one of the 4 or 5 players that's the startup of the KTR, the Knights of the Raritan NIL collective. They're basically just paying him to announce it on social media. I don't know how much like stuff like that's going to help, because I mean, obviously all the Rutgers fans follow Paul and follow all the other Rutgers players, so I guess it helps a little bit. But I think doesn't he have an NIL deal with someone?
I mean,
or maybe I'm wrong.
I think you have to assume that they have NIL deals I would just assume that everybody at one of the revenue generating sports has an NIL deal at this point. Yeah. And that's the other thing about NIL deals, is that just because you're in a sport that does not make a lot of money doesn't mean that you're not going to have opportunities with NIL. Some of the biggest earners in terms of NIL are like women's gymnastics athletes or women's basketball athletes. Like there's a lot of lifestyle brands that know that these athletes can make a big impact on their business, and that's why that they're making so much money, because it's what they can bring. It's because they have a following on social media, they have 1 million followers, and that's like the driving force, is they want the biggest impact that they can, especially these big companies. When we're talking about like donors who are just throwing money at people to come to their school, it's different than like a fitness brand approaching a gymnast saying, we'd like to sponsor you. And that's because they have 2 million followers on Instagram. Like, it's not because they're trying to convince them to go to a school. So I think there's 2 totally different lanes NIL sits in right now.
Yeah, it's completely insane. You'll see all the small deals like we just mentioned at Rutgers. We saw Willie Tyler the other day post about how his new grill he got fitted from his dentist's office or whatever the hell, orthodontist, and it's like, guess that's an NIL deal. Like, it's insane. It's basically like you get everything, I guess, at this point. And it's not going to be like equal opportunity. Like, not everyone's going to, I mean, I guess it is, because everyone gets a chance to, but you got to have a following, or you got to be a starter, or you got to be a good player, I guess. The whole thing is just madness, and it's hard to control right now because there's this level and then there's here's $3 million, come play for us. So
yeah, I think the shit that USC is doing is going to have some kind of ramifications. Who knows if it's like going to happen anytime soon, but I think everyone can agree that the spirit of NIL is not tampering with players on other teams and giving them a ton of money to come play for a new school. I think that's totally against what NIL is set up to do. And it's not really set up to do anything because there's really no structure to it from the NCAA. So I don't know.
It's crazy.
I wish there was just something that the NCAA would do.
Yeah, then you see Zay Flowers yesterday and came out and like, it's kind of ballsy to come out and say this. It's like, yeah, I turned down $300,000 from this company. I turned down $600,000 from some other team that wanted me into the portal, and it's like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing now. Like we're full blown tampering. Like,
yeah, no, it's bad. I saw that article on ESPN too, where he like, and it sucks because like he's one of 14 kids. His mom passed away, so his dad's supporting 14 kids. This would be like life changing for that family.
Yeah,
and he's just being like open and honest and like a good person about it. But like, if I was in his shoes, unless he got some kind of matching offer from BC, like, how do you turn that down? Like, you might not ever play in the NFL. He's a slot receiver. Like,
yeah, I think he's projected in NFL, to be honest. I don't know where exactly, but I know he's projected. He's projected like right here by CBS. Last year's second round. So I mean, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I just mainly think of it from like the Justin Ross angle. Like, he was like without a doubt first round pick after his freshman year, and now he goes undrafted. He's honestly probably not going to play in the NFL. Just like, he's got a congenital issue with his neck and spine. He had to fuse a bunch of vertebrae in his neck, and
it's scary,
bad,
but insane. Oh well.
All right, so we have a listener mailbag. I'm just going to start firing these off. I've kind of grouped them. The first is going to be a collection of NIL questions from the board. The first one is, I'll let you catch your breath here.
No, you're good.
Does the NIL launch really move the needle much, since they're stuck to the spirit of NIL and are focusing on only current RU athletes, unlike most other programs? It strikes me more as they don't believe they can raise the funds to play at that level, but I don't know.
When you say move the needle, I'm assuming you mean like, are they gonna like walk out and try to like?
It's gonna help recruiting, I think, is the spirit of the question.
No, yes and no. No, because it's not going to be like, hey, we're not going to go buy players. But yes, as in like people are going to be like, oh, you know what, Rutgers is a collective. Like, ideally, their plan is to make it so like attractive that Rutgers is like, athletes are like, hey, we just got this new deal from so and so, made so and so amount of money. I don't know if they'll ever disclose those amounts. Ideally, you disclose only the big amounts to make it look more attractive to go to Rutgers. So I guess it helps in that aspect. But at the end of the day, I don't think any kid's really going to, I don't think it's a huge difference maker. And I hate to say it, but I don't think people are going to be like, oh, wow, that kid just made like 100K. And it's like, if you're good enough, there's a good chance you could probably go make a shit ton at some other school, or some other school is just going to be like, hey, here's a bag, just come play. Like, who cares? I don't know. It's tough, because if you're not going to play, we've talked about this before, if you're not going to play dirty, you're probably not going to land the top recruits.
Yeah, I think this will prevent like the lowest hanging fruit from leaving because they don't feel supported at all. But I don't think, if say we had a Jordan Addison on our team, like, this type of collective is not going to prevent him from getting poached.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I don't think it prevents that at all whatsoever. I think if someone wanted to come poach a player, I think that they're going to do it regardless. They're actually not even going to put a number out there. They'll probably say, what number would it take for you to come play for us? And I'm assuming that's what happened with the Jordan Addison thing. And they're probably like, hey, how much would it come to come play for us? And he's probably like, haha, $3 million. And they're like, okay. And he's like, wait, what? Like,
yeah, because you just have like a few programs who have these billionaires who want to play GM, like Miami and USC. So like, you can't compete with that unless we have our own billionaire who wants to play GM.
Exactly. And like, it's not a secret. There's not a ton of Rutgers donors out there. Of course, there's like a core group of top guys. There's a core group of middle guys, but there's not as many as there needs to be. So now it's going to be interesting, because are these donors going to focus half of their money each way towards athletics facilities and towards athletes? Or are they going to be like full on NIL, full on facilities? Or Like,
Yeah.
I get it. Like, some of these guys are rich and they probably just throw money around like it's fun. But at the end of the day, there's not enough donors at Rutgers in order to make things to split it up now. Now you're kind of entering an interesting era because now it's like, all right, we need these facilities really bad, but we also need to pay the athletes. So it's
Yeah. We have the alumni base to make
yeah, that's not no question
make it
about
happen,
that.
but
Yeah.
it's just we don't have enough engaged alumni. So I think that should be the focus of the university is how do we engage more of our alumni and make them proud to be Rutgers alumni and also support the different athletic endeavors we're going through or whatever. I don't know.
It's definitely interesting. I don't know. End of the day, I guess the question, does it really move the needle that much? I don't think it moves it that much at all. But again, it might help with like lower level guys. It's a good idea. It's a good start. We don't really know where this is going to go. We don't know what the NCAA is going to do. We don't know if the Power Fives are just going to be like, you know what? Fuck you. We're done with the NCAA. We're out. We're running our own thing
the
now.
President of Ohio State already came out and said the CFP should run football and the NCAA should run everything else. So,
well, I mean, the issue is they're all complaining about the NIL stuff. They didn't even go, instead of going to the NCAA or instead of the NCAA like committee going to Congress, all the Power Five commissioners are going to Congress. They're just skipping over the NCAA. So the NCAA is just a figurehead at this point, and it would not shock me if they just kind of said like, we're done with you. We're doing our own thing. So that's where it's going to get tricky. They're saying now, article came out on Sports Illustrated yesterday. I forget what it said, something along the lines of, if you were tampering already, you're probably going to get sanctioned. So now we need to see what happens. Like, we really don't know what's going to happen over the next year, I want to say.
Yep. Yeah, because it seemed a school like Kansas was given like really high level sanctions from the NCAA from that Adidas scandal. That was 5 years ago. They still haven't been punished, and they just won a national championship in basketball. So like the NCAA has a huge credibility problem, both in enforcing its own rules and coming up with rules in general. So I hope they need to beef up their everything, and I don't know how that's going to happen.
Yeah, it's like a total mess. I don't know what they're going to do. We'll see.
All right, but the next question is how the NIL and Rutgers' new collective impacts basketball and football. Who does it hurt or benefit more? So I guess you just take the second part of that.
Say again. My bad. I was reading a text.
No, it's fine. Who benefits more from the new NIL collective, the basketball program or the football program?
Football. More eyes on football. More people watching football. More football fans than basketball fans. There's no question about it. I mean, look at the size of the arena, stadium, big gap. We already see like, yeah, they'll get like a couple NIL deals here and there. Like I said, the Honey Stinger thing, Cliff's probably going to get a couple deals. I would like to see a Dunkin' Donuts for Cliff. I think that'd be funny.
That'd be interesting. Yeah.
I just thought about that in my head. That's pretty good. I'll take my 10%.
Send it to his representation there.
Yeah, I want my 10% from that Dunkin'. So thank you. Free coffee for a year. That'll be good. I think football easily. You're seeing it already. Willie Tyler's posting about a new grill, new teeth, or whatever it was from orthodontist. I'm sure Gavin Wimsatt has deals that are undisclosed. Actually, that's been already out there, right? A little bit.
Yeah, a couple of his deals. I don't think numbers have been announced, but he's posted about NIL stuff, and that's kind of leading into the next question: is did Rutgers use NIL money to land Gavin?
I mean, yeah.
I don't. Well, I think
no.
I think he committed. Like, I think he was coming on like right as NIL just was like initially announced. I think him coming to Rutgers early was NIL related.
Yes,
but it wasn't. He didn't come to Rutgers because of NIL. I know that sounds convoluted, but why don't you explain that and why he came early?
Well, I think it came out. Yeah. So this was on multiple websites, and this got reported back by whatever that Kentucky outlet was. Yeah, he signed a 6-figure NIL deal the minute he enrolled. So it's like there's no secret there. I'm sure that's like he committed. He loves Gleason. He loves Rutgers. He loved everything about it. That was no secret about that. He was basically on board. Now, when it came to the decision of coming early, I know Greg told us on video, a year or this past spring, he told us.
Yep.
He was talking about how, it was Gavin's idea, this, that, and the third. I'm sure some company probably was like approaching him and was probably like, hey, like You want to try to enroll early? If you do, like we can get this thing like.
I think he got the idea from Quinn Ewers too.
Yeah, well, Quinn obviously signed what, $1 million deal.
Yep.
And he's the reason that everyone's probably going to have like all kinds of stipulations now and stuff. So
yeah,
gets $1 million, runs away from Ohio State, goes to Texas. Is the starter, not the starter? I don't know. I'm not following enough to know, but
sounds like it's not. He's not the starter immediately after spring practice, but it's almost like it's going to happen at some point this season.
Okay, makes sense. But yeah, did they use NIL money to land Wimsatt? No, they built a great relationship with him. But I mean, did he enroll early because of NIL? Probably. Yeah, I don't think there's any disagreement against that.
So the next question is baseball related. Somebody said, I've heard from a very good source that there is a current $6 million baseball stadium with lights, scoreboard proposal. They don't know what the stage of the proposal is. And as far as funding, they have no idea on private. So it's basically like they heard there's a plan, but there's no funding. And if Rutgers doesn't invest in baseball, can we lose Steve Owens and his staff? This is a you question here.
So for starters, 6 million is not enough.
Yeah,
I can tell you that right now. There's nowhere near enough because, for an example, my hometown, South Amboy, they just started they redid their entire Little League complex. So it's a majors, like old school. It's like Babe Ruth, Cal Ripken, and a T-ball field. So there's just 3 fields right there. This is the most basic thing you can get. It's 3 fields, 2 dugouts each field. That costs $2 million. You think $6 million is going to build a fucking stadium with lights and a scoreboard? No,
is there lights and fencing and scoreboards on these fields you're talking about?
No, they have the little like one in the left field corner. That's about it. Like the little stand-up one. But they're not that good. You need so much stuff for Rutgers. Like you need a ton.
Yeah.
$6 million is nowhere near enough. Now, I know when we talked to Pat, he basically said he's like that's kind of far down the line. I rewatched the video actually recently because someone asked me about it. The top 3 things are football facility, upgrades to both stadiums and premium seats, and rack renovations. That's 1, 2, 3. They have there's timelines on these now because football you need to get done immediately. Like you need something at least in the works. Yep. Number 2, premium seats. Rutgers is lowest of low in the Big Ten when it comes to premium seats in SHI and the rack. And number 3, the rack renovations. The Jersey Mike's deal clearly states that you need to renovate or just blow up the rack. Like one of the 2 has to happen. I know when we talked to Pat, he really wants to do that whole like full circular motion of the rack. I don't know what they're going to do with that little road behind the rack. I think it's probably screwed at that point.
Yep.
They're going to have to do those 3 things are the major concerns. Then someone else brought up a lacrosse stadium. I've never even heard him mention a lacrosse stadium.
That's not happening. Let me just put that out there. There's like very few There's very few. I looked into this stuff recently. There's very few universities that have a like lacrosse specific facility, whether it be a stadium or a field. Like typically they play on the football field because they're the same size. This happens at almost everywhere. Even at a program like Maryland, they're still playing on like the football stadium. So
exactly. I don't see that ever changing, to be honest. Someone said like, are they going to get their own facility? They just got the Rockin. The Rockin's literally soccer, men's and women's, lacrosse, men's and women's. That's it. Like you got locker rooms, you got everything. Now, I don't know what the deal is between the soccer fields and the little turf fields on the side. Maybe there's supposed to be one was supposed to be soccer, one was supposed to be lacrosse, but I think now one's grass and one's turf, so they can kind of alternate and do whatever they have to. I think they still I know Greg's not happy about them using the football stuff, but at the moment, is there really a choice? Probably not. Use the stadium, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the original question, baseball, no, that's not in the cards anywhere near to. But at the end of the day, if someone wants to go pony up a shit ton of money for lights and all that, Pat said, I'll happily take it and I'll happily put it right to baseball. But there's not enough money for it right now. The focus is football, rack, premium seats, maybe vice versa, 2 and 3, but whatever. You know what I mean?
Yep. No, I'm hearing you. We're going to move on to football questions now. The first one is, which freshman or redshirt freshman who hasn't played significant time do you think has the biggest impact this fall, and they mean in a good way?
Redshirt freshman. Is Wesley Bailey still a redshirt freshman?
I don't know. It's a good question. Maybe eligibility-wise he might be because of the COVID year.
Oh, because COVID year, yes. It's kind of a cop-out answer, but I think Wesley Bailey is going to be a top 2 sack leader for the team. It's not like a secret. I put in the war room. He's very good. Cam Stewart's going to be a top 5 sack leader on the team. I think those two are going to be phenomenal at defensive end, especially because Touré's probably out for the year. So now you're down a guy. So now you really don't have any. Someone has to step up. I think Bailey steps up as the starter. I think they're going to rotate in a bunch of dudes. Offense, Sean Munnerlin made some real noise in training camp last fall. Got hurt, unfortunately. Big, tall receiver threat. I don't know if he's going to do that this year because now Sean Ryan's kind of assumed that role. So I don't know if Munnerlin, plus Munnerlin's still recovering. So I don't know if it's going to he'll be healthy enough, number one, or two, if he's going to be able to unseat like a Sean Ryan. It's pretty clear that they kind of like their starting receivers. They don't really rotate a ton in and out. Al-Shadi Salam looked pretty good in spring game. Although
I was surprised at how good he looked.
Yeah, although he's been dinged up a lot last year, this year. I don't know how much playing time he'll actually get. I know he played a ton in the spring game, but you have to also factor in that JWC got hurt. Aaron Young was hurt all spring. Aaron Young's probably the starter still. I think Monongai's number 2, then 3 JWC Salam maybe. And then don't count out Sam Brown, who's coming in June. He's going to be another big bulky back that they have. So I don't know how much he'll play, but he'll be a name to watch. Redshirt freshman Gavin Wimsatt. Haha. Like, yeah, technically, I guess you could say that. But other than him, linebacker core is bad. Really bad.
It doesn't help that Moses Walker got hurt too.
The cornerback, no. Safety, Desmond Igbinosun is probably going to be a starter at safety. It would not shock me one bit. Yeah. He's phenomenal. That's really it, I guess.
All right, we'll move on to the next one then, because we're running a bit long here, but that's fine. I want to get through these questions. So what needs to happen to consider Schiano 2.0 a success?
I read the end of that too.
Yeah, I'll that's part 2 of the question.
Okay. If we consider it success, it's tough. I don't think gonna get a lot of hate for this again. I don't know if he'll ever get back to that level he had in the Big East. I think it's too hard. I think it's insane unless you have donors buying players left and right, which I don't think is happening. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they'll ever get back to that level. I think the ideal max level he'll get a bowl game every year for the most part. Schedule 3 cupcakes. You get 3 wins right there. Then you just got to hope you get 3 Big Ten wins, and then you get a bowl game. You get a bowl game, fans will be happy. Maybe every once in a while, every once in a blue moon, you get like that 8 to 10 win mark. And it's like, all right, shit. Like, you know what? Maybe we can build off that. But I think it's similar to where I think Pikel can make the tournament once every 3 to 4 years. I think that Schiano getting a bowl game every year is a start, and then getting 1 big season every 5 to 6 seasons.
Yeah, my thought on this was if we turn into like East Coast Iowa, that is what we probably should look for as like a ceiling, where every 10 years they go 11-2 and they make some noise into November, but most of the time there's like a 7-5 team. I think that's kind of what we're looking at.
I think a 6-7 win team is pretty good. And that's a hell of a turnaround compared to what they just had in the past 2 regimes. So,
yeah, but I think you need to get to certain levels to stabilize.
Yeah.
Like Schiano needs to get at that level where he's winning 7 games a year for like 5 years before he could really build platform to move the program up at all. Because
exactly.
You need to, like, that was kind of what he did. I mean, he got lucky, not really lucky. He had a great season early in his like ascension, and then he leveled off.
Yeah. You can't just go from here to here. You have to go here to here, and then here for like 10 years, and here for 10 years, and then maybe you can get there.
Yep.
But it's tough.
The second part of this question is, if Schiano took the Miami, Michigan, or Tennessee jobs, would he have been successful? I mean, Tennessee, nobody can be successful other than Philip Fulmer, it seems. So I would say he wouldn't have been successful there because he's not a culture fit.
Yeah.
I think he would have been successful at Miami, but not Michigan. What do you think?
I was going to say opposite. I think Miami's just such a hard job. I think Miami's almost a dead end job. I don't think if Cristobal can't revive that program, I don't know if anyone will. I think.
Well, you got to think he goes off for that job in like 2006, where they were still considered like a top level program, even though they hadn't had results.
It's tough because like he's a different type of coach. He's an old school coach. Would it work with some of the guys out of Miami? Probably, yeah. it'd be interesting. I don't know if I'd be sold on it. Michigan, I think Shiano fits the narrative of a Big Ten coach. I think the game has changed a little bit since his last tenure at Rutgers, and I think that's going to be a big difference maker. I think he's still. It's crazy to say. I think Shiano's learning on the job like right now because it's a totally different world in terms of NIL, in terms of recruiting, in terms of how to convince players and stuff like that. It's not as easy as it was back in the day. Now you can get away with just being a recruiter as a head coach and not even be a good head coach and still be find success. So I think it's a lot different. That's a tough one with the Michigan one. Michigan's such an easy job to sell for recruits. So maybe as long as you make the right
there's
hires.
been so many guys who like haven't had success there. Like they've got this like stigma of being like a quote unquote Michigan man, which I think is a load of crap. But like people will reject you pretty quickly at Michigan if you're not one of them. Like Harbaugh has gotten a long leash because he's Harbaugh. Like Lloyd Carr got a long leash because he was Bo's guy. Like if you look at like Brady Hoke, he got thrown out of there so fast. Okay. Rich Rod got kicked out of there so fast. Like if you're not one of their own, they will eat you alive unless you bring immediate success. That's why I didn't think Shiano would have done well there.
That's a good point. It's a tough call. I don't know if he'd be successful at either, to be honest. I think Rutgers is his perfect fit. I hate to say it, but it is.
So the next question is, behind the revamped offensive line, will we see an actual rushing attack, and will better blockers allow Vedral to be more effective in the passing game? Only mentioning Vedral since you said he's the presumed starter. Frankly, I don't see it, but I will play along for now. So a little cheeky shit at the end there, but what do you think?
I guess I'll start with the second part first. I think a better offensive line definitely helps Vedral. It gives him more time. I mean, it helps any quarterback. Now, is the offensive line, again, are they taking this leap from here to here? No shot in hell. They just, it's still a bottom of the Big Ten offensive line, in my opinion. Maybe middle pack, you could argue, like the lower half of that middle pack. But I still think there's a ton of work to be done. It's not like these guys were world beaters at their old programs. They were solid players. Some of them. JD Dorenzo was phenomenal at Sacred Heart, and I think he was going to be really good here. Willie Tyler had his ups and downs at Louisiana Lafayette. One of those, whatever
Louisiana
it was.
Monroe.
Yeah. He didn't look like a world beater last year at a low level school. He looked okay at times, and he looked great at times. He looked bad at times. It's like, and then Dunlap's injury prone, so it's hard to tell. He even got dinged up in spring early on. So, but he came back, he bounced back, he's healthy now. He's a former 4-star, I think, high 3-star, one of the two. It's going to be interesting. Holland Pierce missed the spring game, missed almost all of spring, and I think he's probably your right tackle this year. Is he going to be healthy? Reggie Sutton doesn't sound like he's going to make it for the start of the season. Is he going to make this season at all? Who knows? That's probably your best lineman right there. There's your big issue. You lost Raekwon O'Neal, who is arguably your second best lineman. It's going to be interesting, and these guys are going to need time to gel too. So I don't know if they're going to be like phenomenal, like everyone thinks. Like everyone sees all these transfers there, they think like, oh, we're going to be great. Like, no, I don't know if that's necessarily true. The run game in general, I don't know how it's going to perform because the run game in general didn't look good in spring. Maybe it looked good in spring ball and spring game. In general, spring ball, it didn't look that good. It struggled a lot. Obviously, you're missing probably your starter, Aaron Young. JWC was in and out. Salam was in and out. I don't know. I think I honestly wish Pacheco would have stayed another year because if this offensive line is slightly better, I think he could have had a slightly better year. But he's getting old. He got picked in the 7th round, so I mean, good for him. But I don't know how much better this is going to be this year. It's going to be slightly better, but I don't know if it's going to be significantly better.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably fair. We should probably be striving for average. Average would be a huge upgrade and would make us be able to at least scheme up game plans that might be able to beat teams with better talent.
Yeah.
Which is all you can ask for right now. He said, now the next question is, now that we're deep into the 23 cycle, which we're not really, but who are the top targets for Rutgers at each position and which of them are we most likely to land? Take this wherever you want.
Yeah, we're not even halfway through, but I guess if you want to call it deep into the cycle. just looking at the board right now, Logan Blake's probably all right, here, I'll start from quarterback. All right, cool. No offers. Never mind. Next. Running back. Brandon Wislowski is probably the favorite there to commit to Rutgers. Chris Johnson's gone. We have
probably not coming back.
No, hell no. We have the 2023 recruiting board pinned at the top of the message board, so you can always check that out. We update it. Ryan updated it yesterday, so it's like it's pretty updated. Fama Toure likes Rutgers a lot. I'm not sure if he's a take at the moment. He's like he's got a weird build. I saw him at the Under Armour camp, didn't think he was that good. I think it'd be I hate to not take a kid because he's a Toure, because his younger brother's top 150 kid, or cousin brother. There's like 3 more Toures coming up, so it's like ridiculous. But
yep.
Sean Williams is quiet. No, probably not him. Jesse Fury, who's another average kid. I don't think he's great, but you don't really have another receiver target on the board, at least at the moment. I think you probably push for him and try to take him. Like I said, Kenny Johnson's going elsewhere. The rest of that group, Santana Fleming, Hakeem Williams, both gone. We'll skip that group. That's the only one I see there is probably Jesse Fury. So Brandon Wislowski, Jesse Fury, 2 3 stars. Logan Blake will get a 3-star. I actually argued for him to get a 5.6. He looked phenomenal. Dominic Rivera will probably commit an offensive line. Chase Basantis isn't coming to Rutgers. I know people want to say there's a chance, but there's not. Tommy Kinsler, I heard, is about to schedule an official visit. He told me yesterday, day before. He said it's not official yet, but he will be on that second weekend, most likely. They're working out the flight details. I think he's from Georgia. I got to look back into him. He's another offensive lineman. Zach Amland has been to campus quite a few times. I mean, it's a pretty good O-line group if you get Stone, Rivera, Amland, and Kinsler. Maybe a 5th. I don't know who that 5th would be, but I don't know if that 5th has actually been offered yet, because looking at the rest of the offers, they all look like they're going elsewhere. D-line, Ted Gregory is going to probably join Josiah Peterson. That'd be a good start. DJ Samuels is a weird one because he's such a tweener. Antonio Kamen's coming on a visit. Rodney Laura's coming on a visit. Isaiah Neal's coming. Dylan Gooden's coming on a visit. Doc Gooden's son, for all you Mets fans. Yep. Yeah. Hell of a win last night.
That's wild.
Yeah, I know. I had Mets 3.5 over, and I was like sweating going in the 9th. I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, come on!" It was ballsy because of Aaron Nola, but regardless,
they scored all 8 runs in the 9th. So
I know it's crazy, but linebacker's interesting. They need Davon Fuse is probably their top most realistic target. Samaj Bridgman probably is going to go south.
Oh damn, that's a quick change.
That's a weird one.
Sounded more promising a few weeks ago.
It's so weird because that's like such a hey, here's a camp offer, and people are like, what's a camp offer? He doesn't have to camp, he got the offer. And I'm like, no, like they're not just going to be like, if you want to commit right now, they're going to tell him no. They're going to say, hey, you haven't been to campus, come check it out. Let's work you out. Let's do all the other bullshit we got to do. Hey, you look good. Now we'll take you. Like, stupid. Yeah. Either that or Georgia. The rest of the group, Davon Fuse, like I said, is probably the most realistic. Troy Bowles visits once in a while, but I think that's just a family-friendly visit to his brother.
Yep.
DBs are struggling. RJ Johnson, Georgia kid again, came up for a visit last week. I think Alex had more on the inside the banks. Musa Kane's leaning towards Oklahoma with Penn State number 2. So that's out. Luke Evans is taking an official at Penn State. King Max taking an official at Penn State. Yeah, they need to offer a couple more DBs. They just offered one today, actually, a cornerback out of Florida, Osceola, Florida. I said it before, recruiting's not great right now. They're starting to reach on kids. They just offered, the Osceola kid had Campbell, Florida Atlantic, and Miami, Ohio. It's not like, I'm just going based off offers. I haven't watched his film. But overall, like if you're a Florida kid and you have only Florida Atlantic, it's probably not a good sign. But
yep.
I'll have to watch his film, check him out. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the whole board. That's that's pretty much it, I guess, right?
Yeah, no, you really went fully in depth on that one, which I'm sure whoever asked that question will appreciate.
But be mad.
What was the biggest surprise of spring ball? And I guess that's a pretty wide question, but what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of surprise from spring?
Evan Simon. I'm telling you, I can't stop raving about the kid. I just did not expect him. I thought that QB3 from the get came out, started slinging it. Obviously the drills were always led by Vedral because the veteran. It's like, hey, Shiano said at practice one, he's like, we're gonna give Vedral the start like of reps. Then these two are gonna split, and then we're all gonna split ones and see what happens. They started splitting ones, and Evan Simon looked great. He arguably looked like the best quarterback multiple practices. I've had high school head coaches, I've had high school assistant coaches, I've had recruits tell me that number 3 kid, man, he's pretty good. And I'm like, wait, what? Hold on, say that again.
Yeah,
like, yeah, no, number 3, and I'm like, no, you mean like 2, right? Or whatever Wimsatt is. I think he's 2, right? Or 1 now.
He's 2 now.
Yeah. I'm like, no, you mean 2 or 0, right? And he's like, no, 3. 3 was the best one today. What? Wait, what? So then you just keep an eye on it, and it's like, oh shit, all right, maybe he is the best one out of the group, but we'll have to wait and see. The only reason I said it before, I'm saying Vedral's the starter just because he's the veteran. He's a 6th, 7th year guy. He's trustworthy. They like him. They know him. They know what he's going to bring. Simon's a little risky, as we've seen in the spring game. I'm pretty sure they didn't tell him to throw into like double coverage like he did, which means basically he's not afraid to, which is a good and bad thing because you might see more deep shots this year, but you also might see more interceptions. So you got to live and die with the young guy, I think.
Awesome. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that one, but very interesting insight there.
It's a good name.
So this next one, this must be a person who doesn't really follow the boards very closely because they said it's May 6th and the remaining portal quarterbacks are like leftover crumbs. Does Rutgers have any chance to land any remaining portal QB so we don't have to watch another season of Vedral attempting a waggle pass for 3 yards and 0 progression reads as a 6-year quarterback?
I know it's block R. I know it's block R. I just know it. Okay. And you know what the worst part is? It's not just on the boards. It's in my Twitter DMs too.
Oh my God.
It's not happening. Like, it's not. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, he sent me Emory Jones 2 days ago, and I was like, dude, it's not happening. It's like, why? He's only got Akron. And I was like, dude, just watch. It's not happening.
Just committed to Arizona State, too.
He committed to Arizona State without even visiting. And it's like, oh, weird how that one happened.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, I looked at, I was messing with him today because I sent the Mike Farrell put out a list of like the top 5 portal quarterbacks right now, and it's just like they're not even good. Like, I don't even know why you would want them. So they're all backups.
Unless you're like literally just like your quarterback room's empty. I don't see why.
Yeah, then you take Tayson Famakana out of Clemson, who is 3rd string.
Oh, that guy's from Connecticut.
Yeah, his brother plays for UConn, I think. Right?
Yep.
Yeah. 204 yards in 3 seasons. We're good.
Yeah. Pretty solid no there. We're not taking a quarterback. I don't think we need to waste any more time on that question.
I don't even think they're taking 2023 either. So it's like,
yeah, I think things would have to change for us to take one, given how steady the drumbeat of we're not offering a quarterback and we haven't offered one is.
It's too late now too. Like, you're in May. Like, all the good ones are gone.
Yep.
So I don't know.
The next question is, how strongly do you feel about the 6, and which is now 8 official visits already scheduled in June? Who are you in the lead with, and who do they need to make up ground with? And I assume they're just talking about the official visit. So
I think we went over that already.
We kind of did. Well, I guess let's change the question. Who of the 8 guys who are taking an OV, who you feel best about? And I think I already knew the answer.
Gregory, probably.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Braden.
Wait, Braden. Oh, Braden. Yeah, that's 2021. I keep forgetting his name's Braden. It looks like Brandon. Gregory, Rivera, and Wazowski. I think you should probably lock all 3 of those down pretty quickly. Laura is a super reserved, super quiet kid. So it's going to be an interesting weekend for him to see if they get him out of his shell a little bit. If they do and get that comfortability with him, I think that they could probably land him. I don't think there's any shot at Dylan Gooden. but then again, he's a weird recruitment too, because he's a little smaller at 6'4". He's a little smaller than what they want at defensive end. I don't know where else he would visit to. I haven't really checked in with him in a little bit. I got to check in with him actually, but the rest I kind of said Kenny Johnson, West Virginia, Antonio Kamen, there's a good shot there, and Isaiah Neal, there's a good shot there. They could have a really good defensive line class and a solid offensive line class. It's the rest that worries me. So, but that's how you build a program in the trenches. So
Yep.
We'll see.
That was a hallmark of Gianna 1.0 is, he just had a ton of really good linemen, even if they weren't like NFL caliber. We never had lines that were just getting pushed around, even if they were undersized. At least, starting at like 2004, 2005 for Rutgers through like 2011.
That'll be interesting.
Last football question is, for our football offense, what will be the pass rush percentage if you had to take a guess?
What was it last year? It's probably like 60-40, right?
I can take a look. I'll keep talking while I'm doing that.
I'm gonna say they're probably gonna run. Just a safety thing. Like that's their thinking. If they're gonna have Vedral, they're not gonna stretch the field that much. So I think the ideal plan is to run more than pass. Is that probably gonna be the same this year? That's a tough one. I'd probably say 55-45 pass rush or rush pass. They're going to run more than they're going to pass, I think. I want to say that's what they did this year, right?
So what was your guess? I have the numbers, but
I just did like 50. Last year or this year?
For this year.
For this year, I said 55-45. Run or pass run.
So it was the opposite last year. So we ran 55% of the time through 45% of the time.
Yeah, I think it's going to be close to 50-50, I would assume, because the running backs are not as good, but there's more of a committee. They got a better offensive line, but the quarterback's the same. So it's like, I don't know. That's interesting. Better receivers.
Yeah, I think it'll tick up because for a few reasons. One, I think the staff will feel more comfortable dropping back quarterbacks with an offensive line that they feel is better. Yeah. And I got to believe that they feel better about this line than they did last year. And also I think we'll be in more games. So we're not going to just do this like surrender run crap that we did for a lot of last season.
That's an interesting one. I'm actually intrigued by that. I don't really know.
I think it'll be close to 50-50 if I had to guess.
Yeah.
So the last one is a basketball question. They asked, given the extra year of eligibility for COVID, he is permitted to play for a fifth season in 23-24. Do you think he stays that long? I
actually saw that. And that made me think a little bit. I'm going to say yes, but he's not going to be happy with my response. Why? I don't think Mulcahy's NBA good. So I think he's going to try to stay in college as long as possible. He strikes me as a kid who's very smart. I don't think there's any question about that. I could see him like pursuing some kind of graduate degree and staying. Like I think he just graduated already.
Yeah, I saw him in pictures with like Ralph and
so I mean, I think it's kind of obvious he's going to pursue that graduate degree because he's going to be here. He's going to have to study something.
Yep.
So I mean, this kid might be the next Adam Corset. Might have a doctorate by the time he's done.
Could be.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance he stays as long as possible. Although I do think his game at the European level would be pretty wild to watch. It's like almost like a taller version of Milos Teodosic. I don't know if people remember him or not. Former Clipper for a year. I thought he was going to be the rookie of the year. I was so hyped. I was like, this 30-year-old just won MVP of the EuroLeague. He was going to be great. Came over, worst player ever. Went right back to Europe, won MVP again. Or close to MVP. Might not have won it again. Yeah,
that's why I think the NBA game has shifted more towards the style of European basketball. So I think that's why we've seen more European guys have not only success, but fairly early success.
Yeah.
Because it's a more spread out game, a lot more 3-point shooting. And that's kind of the way that they played in Europe for a long time. And it's just now coming to the US.
Yeah, so. Definitely. Totally agree.
So that's all the questions we got, guys. I appreciate everybody who came and dropped a question in the thread. We'll do this again at some point. I'm sure probably in training camp we'll have our next mailbag episode.
Yeah.
Richie, is there anything that you'd like to send us off with? Any thing we should be looking out for in the near future?
Let me think. We're gonna have another thing. There's another like NIL thing that we're gonna be talking about on Monday. Alex just sent me an email about it. We're working on something on the side there. Rutgers lacrosse championship Saturday night.
Yep.
You got to think Maryland's got to be due for an upset eventually, right?
Yeah, I think they played John Hopkins in their semifinal match, and I think they disposed of them pretty handily. Rutgers kind of got their doors blown off by Maryland the last matchup.
Oh, I thought you were talking about yesterday. Yesterday was like, oh my God, what the fuck happened? And then it's
a
big switch up.
So I think Rutgers beat Ohio State in the regular season in their conference matchup by like close to 10 goals. And they had to come back from like 4 down at halftime to win against Ohio State. So not really it's when you have games like that, it's both disheartening and inspiring at the same time, because like you let yourself get in that position, but you showed enough grit to get out of it. So
yeah. So I mean, there's going to need a little bit they'll need a lot of luck on Saturday, but there's a shot, not a shot at their first Big Ten tournament championship. I think
it would be the first men's Big Ten tournament championship, because I think the field hockey team won. It was I forget which did what. So either the women's soccer team either won the tournament or the regular season, and the opposite for the field hockey team.
Gotcha.
So they could win their first Big Ten title. That'd be huge.
Yeah, we'll see. But other than that, I mean, it's kind of quiet right now. Nothing crazy going on. I don't see any commitments on the verge of happening. But the minute I say that, something's going to happen. And if you made it this long, you're a liar, because there's no way. But yeah, it was a long one.
Yeah, the other thing is baseball's got a big 3-game stand this weekend at home against Maryland.
If it happens, you move the games to Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It's going to downpour tomorrow. It's going to ruin my Kentucky Derby. And then Sunday, I don't even know if Sunday's optimistic, is it? I don't know what the weather looks like.
So Sunday isn't supposed to rain, but it's supposed to be like overcast and cold, like high 50 or low 50s.
If they could snag that game in, though, that'd be huge. If they can snag 2 or 3 against Maryland, they might win the regular season Big Ten. So
if they snag 2 of 3, it's almost impossible for them to lose the Big Ten regular season title.
Yeah,
because at that point they'll be 17-3 or 17-4. Maryland will be 12-6, and so you basically as long as you don't lose out, you'll probably win the regular season, and you'll have the number 1 seed for the tournament. So I mean, it's a team that's almost certainly going to make the NCAA tournament outside of a massive collapse in the second half, or the last quarter of the season.
Yeah.
I think RPI doesn't really mean a whole lot for the team right now, other than like seeding. But
yeah, how do you lose that game against Seton Hall?
Well, they got dominated by both in-state teams midweek against Princeton and Seton Hall. Yeah, like they came back and made it a game out of Princeton, but I think they were down 7-0 in that game at one point. So they were down huge against Seton Hall too, and they never really even came close to winning that one.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but I mean, good chance to win, or why not win, almost secure the Big Ten first place. So I mean, that's huge for Rutgers baseball. Could win a Big Ten championship for Lax. It could be a big weekend for the Scarlet Knights.
For sure. So stay tuned to the boards, guys. We'll keep you updated on any happenings, keep you updated on these sports we've talked about. And thanks for tuning in once again. This has been another episode of the Night Report Podcast. Signing off.